breaks the power? Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder? Who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Sing it out. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos? Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, yeah. That you would bear my cross. You would lay down your life, yeah. That I would be set free, yeah. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here this morning. I was saying earlier that I think that this week we had the full Manitoba winter experience. We had cold weather, we had storms, we have driveways melting because it's mild, and it really is just such a game. I can't figure it out. But on Tuesday, it was Valentine's Day. My wife was driving back from work around 5:30, and it just very quickly got pretty terrible. And it was a very intense phone call ride where she was like, I just can't see, I can't see. And she was quite scared. But she had this vehicle that was right in front of her and had its hazards on it. Like, that was the vehicle that she was just following. She said, I'm following too close because if this car goes away, I won't be able to see anything. And she made it home. Plum Cooley's got an interesting corner there, and there was an accident that happened like right before she got there. And then I'm not saying this is a good decision, but she's just like, I can't see, but I just turned, and I made it home, and I'm thankful. But it was a pretty scary time, and I was reminded in thinking about this morning of just the relationship that we have in life, and the relationship that we have with faith, and the reality that so often we can't see like beyond the lights that are right in front of us. And sometimes that's scary, and sometimes that is so challenging to be walking through life and not having that certainty or that understanding that we long for. But our God is good, and He is faithful, and He is for us. And so this morning we want to celebrate and just really turn our eyes towards who Jesus is, the characteristics that He carries, understanding that we as humans, we don't. And there are things that we were made in His image, but there's a lot of things where we fall short. And so that's our desire for this morning, to be able to celebrate His faithfulness. So let's sing together. The Lord Almighty, lift it up. Our God is a lion, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Oh, so open up the gates. So open up the gates. Make way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power. He's fighting our battles. And every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Oh, yeah. Sing, who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Who can stop the Lord? Our God is a Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power. He's fighting our battles. And every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the I love your energy. Keep clapping. That's great. We sing goodness of God. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, and I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am made, and I will sing all the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, the darkest night. You were close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Sing your goodness is running after. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. Lift it up. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Hey! Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yeah. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Let's lift it up together. All my life. Oh, yeah. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am made, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. Your work is finished, I am forgiven. But Jesus Christ, my living. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross is spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living. Sing hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim. Sing that again. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, thy living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. God, you are my living hope. Amen. You can have a seat.
Our living hope. What a great truth. Don't know how many of you are following along with something called the Asbury Revival, or that's what it's being called. It's just God is up to something on a campus in Kentucky where they're going on over a week of 24/7 worship, and people are just really hungry and just really, we can have all kinds of thoughts on what revival is and what it looks like, and but there's a lot of hunger, and people are going from all over the place to just experience this. These people's deep hunger for God. And so there's that happening. And so as we're singing this morning and just these truths about our living hope, just what a great thing to center us and to anchor us. May our hunger for God as our hope just continue to grow. So good. So good to sing together too. A couple announcements for you before we kind of look at our passage this morning. Tomorrow afternoon, if you so desire to get out of the house and want to come do some sledding, skating, we're going to kind of just gather, congregate. I don't know if it'll be anything specific out at the lake, but we'll meet up there 2 o'clock-ish, and then at 4 o'clock we'll do some hot chocolate back here at the church. So if you want to kind of get out of the house, it's an opportunity to do so. And then next Sunday, we're having a newcomers lunch. And if you have not attended a newcomers lunch, you're invited to be a part of this. As we kind of recently started attending here, it's kind of a good opportunity to get to know some of the staff and what we're about, and meet some others who are kind of new to us. So that's happening next week after the second service. So you're welcome to join us for that. It'd be great to have you. And then we're launching into our Fight Like Jesus series. And with that, we're doing a bunch of small groups are getting together. And we still actually have room in men's, women's, kind of mixed groups, and a young adults group that's going to meet here. It'll kind of just be an open door Mondays at 7 o'clock. So if you want to kind of come be a part of that, there's still openings. We'd love to find you a spot if you desire to get together with others and learn together. So this morning we are talking about kind of introing the series and talking about what is peace. And that'll be our topic this morning. So before we jump in, why don't we pray together? So Lord, thank you so much for this morning together. Would you teach us this morning? Would you draw us closer to yourself? Thank you for the opportunity to gather. Just grateful for life together and what that means and the encouragement that can be for us as we seek to grow and become a little more like you. Amen. All right, we're going to be in Luke 19. So if you got Bibles or phones, you can go there. I should have mentioned this with small groups. If you're not really comfortable with a small group and that's just not really for you right now, we'd love for you to still follow along. So if that means grabbing a book and following along with us, yeah, we'd love for that too. If small groups just, not now, if that's, yeah, just excited to learn and grow together. Parades. Grew up in a small little prairie town, and I think as was very common by, prairie towns, one weekend a summer, we would have, and in Arborg, it was called Arborg Summerfest. And it was our celebration together. It was a very small version of the Corn and Apple. And as was very common, we did a parade. And it seemed like it was an opportunity to showcase your cool car if you had one. Or maybe you had a farm implements dealer. It was an opportunity to showcase the newest and greatest combine. It just seemed to happen every time. Trucking company, then you'd probably want to put your accessorized show truck out there for everyone to see. It was just very common. Small town, prairies, that was what a parade was. Got lots of candy as kids, way too much noise from paramedics and fire trucks and parades. We also, over the last few years, we've had grad parades. We've had birthday parades, I think on a few occasions that we've got to decorate our Pilot and drive it around to cousins and brothers and sisters' homes and do our best to still celebrate milestones in each other's lives. For those of you who were here last week, I was talking about my oldest son and the interactions and conversations he was having with his teacher about football. Well, a big parade happened this week. I'll just leave it like that. It just happened. It's a big thing. We're going to talk about a parade this morning as well. And it happens in Luke 19, and we call it the triumphal entry. Sorry, for those of you who don't know, that is football. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, so they had a big party. So that's what that was. We celebrated it in our home. So we're talking about the triumphal entry this morning, a parade that Jesus is a part of. And Jesus is on his way into Jerusalem for the Passover. Now the Passover typically, so Jerusalem, they think probably had a population of around 70 to 80,000 people at the time. During Passover, and Josephus, who was like a first century historian who recorded this very early on, he said that it was, so this would have been 10 years after Jesus, that the size of the Passover, they slaughtered 260,000 sheep or lambs, and they killed a sheep for every 10 people. So that would mean the city swelled up to probably 2.6 million-ish people. And so it got absolutely massive. We're kind of used to Corn and Apple kind of growing a little bit too over the weekend. But this kind of takes the cake, blows that out of comparison to swell from 80,000, or maybe it's 100 at that point, to 2.6 million. That's a big, big increase in the amount of people. So, Jesus is riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. And we're going to talk about what, like, the lead up to this in the weeks to come. But as they crest the hill and kind of look down into Jerusalem, you have the disciples and all the followers like lining the streets, laying palm branches, celebrating, like our Messiah is coming, our King is here. It's a joyful time. It's a time of celebration. The Pharisees approach Jesus. You got this little tension happening. Pharisees approach Jesus asking him to calm his followers. They don't want another uprising because over the last few years at Passover time, different people have rebelled and revolted against the government, and Passovers ended up being like a deadly time of people being killed and Romans coming in and just absolutely squashing these Jewish celebrations. And so the Pharisees don't want this. They want their Passover. They want their remembrance of what God is doing. So you have that, but Jesus' mind is elsewhere. You have his people celebrating. You have his Pharisees worried. And as we're going to find out, Jesus is just in a different place. So we're going to read Luke 19:41 to 44 together. But as he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, he began to weep. How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace. But now it's too late, and peace is hidden from your eyes. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you from every side. They'll crush you into the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you. So, triumphal entry in the verses that lead up to this, you have this celebration for Jesus coming into the city. And my experience with Palm Sunday and Easter was it's always just a great time as we celebrate Jesus coming in. And yet here you have, there's no thunder or lightning or earthquake like at his death. There is tears. Jesus cries over the city. The word weeping here is actually like a deep sob, like coming from deep within, like just mourning what's going on. And so Jesus is heartbroken. And so a couple truths that we can kind of just take from this, that Jesus' tears, is that if we're hurting, if we're disappointed, if we're disillusioned, because what we thought was going to happen didn't, know that Jesus relates to you. Take comfort in that Jesus' heart breaks and feels alongside yours. He understands your feelings of abandonment, rejection, of loss, of being offended, of being taken advantage of. Jesus gets it. These tears also help us see that just how badly Jesus desires relationship with us. That his natural inclination, Jesus' natural inclination is love towards us. He gets no pleasure in the destruction that is about to happen to Jerusalem. Because as we would see, Jerusalem in 40 years would absolutely be demolished. The Romans would literally leave nothing left other than towers on the outside walls so that people could see, a city once was here. They demolished everything. There's no rubble after a fire or after, nothing left. But know that Jesus, even in this disappointment and rejection, the inclination of his heart is love towards us. And it's with this same deep love that he cries out, how I wish you understood this peace, the way of peace. Jesus wished Jerusalem would know the key. He wishes that they knew what would settle their hearts, what would give them peace. He wishes they knew what would heal their relationships with one another, with their neighboring countries. He wishes that they knew this settled confidence in God because they thought they knew what they needed. See, Jesus' followers thought that peace would come once the Romans were gone. The hated Romans. They thought this coming Messiah, which God had been promising, and the Old Testament prophets had been speaking about for years, they thought that this was going to be a kingdom, a physical kingdom. They completely missed out on what Jesus had been teaching all along. If only we could rid ourselves of all the external forces, we'd experience some peace. All the external factors that we have in our lives, if only we could get rid of them, then we'd know peace. And even today, we find all sorts of ways to kind of fill that hole in us. Alcohol, drugs, new relationships, sex, you name it, we've probably tried to find a way for it to give us peace. And peace eludes us when we don't know what makes for peace. Our present situations and reactions often reveal our understanding of peace. The people of Israel, they thought it was going to be a throne, but Jesus was focused on a cross. And so often we can be tempted to think that if only we had a little more power or position, if only we could be the ones dictating the terms, things would be all right. If only we'd experience peace then if we were making the decisions. If things could just go our way, we'd be all right. And sometimes my heart believes this. It can even become the prayer of my heart. Lord, this thing that's happening in my life right now, remove it. I need it gone. And yet, in doing so, I'm failing to come to Jesus. The nation of Israel had the presence of peace. The Prince of Peace live with them, but failed to come to him. And the irony of all this is that Jerusalem, the name literally means the city of peace. So when Jesus is crying as he's coming down the hill, if only you knew peace, you're literally named after it. And yet he's like, but you can't find it. John 1:11 says he came to his own people, but they rejected him. And I think we can often fall into the same lure with the same thing, that our situations and our surroundings will dictate our peace, rather than fixing our attention and anchoring ourselves on the person of Jesus. Because when that's our peace, it can't be stolen or taken from us. See, Jesus all along had this big idea of what peace was, a much larger understanding for peace. And the Hebrew uses the word shalom. And we've likely heard messages on it before. But shalom reaches into every aspect of our lives. It doesn't leave a stone unturned. It's what Jesus longs for all of us. And it's been God's design and purpose for us right from the beginning. Now, to actually put what shalom is into words is kind of tough because it's all-encompassing. It's a huge, huge thought. But it's also a key to helping us understand as we go forward with this book, as we learn about what the Holy Week all look like, Jesus' interactions, it actually gives us some help to understand where Jesus' heart is. So this is our hope for this morning, that we learn a little bit more about what peace is, because it's so much more than just a lack of conflict or adversity, or there's something so much deeper. And Jesus actually, it really is, peace is about a life of flourishing. And so this is the kind of peace that Jesus is pursuing and wants for us. That, and the Old Testament and Old Testament prophets spoke about this and present this idea that this is what God's design has been, or desire has been, right from the start. Shalom presents a large and a holistic view of what peace is. So the author of our book, Fight Like Jesus, writes this. And he says, unlike how we often speak of peace, shalom denotes more than just the absence of violence. It indicates harmony, health, and wholeness in all aspects of life. Shalom exists when all of our relationships are flourishing. Our relationship with God, with each other, with creation, and even with ourselves. So, when we look at the word shalom in the Old Testament, it's in there about 250 times. Now, don't worry, I didn't look at every single reference this week to see what they all meant. But here are some of the ideas of what shalom represents. So, salvation, wholeness, integrity, soundness, community, righteousness, justice. There's well-being physically. There's well-being psychologically. There's well-being spiritually. There is right relationships with God, with each other, with creation. There's restoration. There's an idea that it's like God intended right from the beginning. And this is what happens when God is involved and invited into the situations and settings in our lives. So here are some of the specifics. So Psalm 72, there's prosperity. So the poor and the needy are being cared for in the nation. The oppressors are being crushed. Isaiah 57, there's health. God brings both spiritual and physical health. Genesis 26, there's reconciliation. So these are all references to peace and the implications of it in our lives. There's contentment and there's good relationship between nations. A wholeness, a completeness, just a life of flourishing. And this is the life of peace that Jesus is inviting us into and mourning that Jerusalem has not been able to find. So we have an opportunity to look and see just at how a life anchored in Jesus, what that looks like for us. So Zechariah, who was John the Baptist's father, and John the Baptist was a man who kind of prepared the way for Jesus, just kind of announced his coming to the world. And his dad said in Luke 1:79 that Jesus would guide us in the path of peace. Paul in Romans talks about Jesus being the source of our peace. In Romans 5, he says, since we've been made right in God's sight, we have peace with God because of what Jesus has done for us. With this knowledge of what peace is and what shalom all means, what it looks like for Jesus, and hopefully we have some personal experience with this as well as we've committed our lives to Jesus and invited him into situations and scenarios in our lives that we've found ourselves in. Hopefully we've experienced some of this peace and shalom as well. But knowing Jesus and putting our trust and faith in him should result in peace being an everyday expression of our lives. If our understanding and pursuit of peace stops at us, then we probably haven't fully grasped what peace is. Because there's a call and a commission for us to extend that peace to others. If it's just for our own personal benefit, then we probably don't know the whole story. And there's something to this for us that if we aren't experiencing this fullest level of peace, if shalom isn't being experienced by others who come into contact with us, because shalom has an effect on its surroundings. People should experience Jesus and this peace in us when they interact with us. It should make our presence a place of comfort and of rest and of peace for others. And this isn't just a kindness, it's coming out of the same place that Jesus' tears come out of, like deep within us. There's a deep care in us for the people in our lives. And it moves beyond just the absence of conflict. Over the last few years, I've had a relationship with a friend, a close friend, that's just been really tough. And we spent 2 days together this past week, just FaceTime. Texting just didn't do it justice, what needed to be done. And we spent a few days together as friends in Winnipeg this week. And it's kind of just trying to put the building blocks, the foundation blocks in our friendship back together, because what's been a rough couple weeks, or years, weeks. And the apologies that, just straight up asked for forgiveness. I had no idea, just the peace that brings of reconciliation, of working to make relationships right and good again. And who knew that it would take a week of studying about peace and a conversation with a friend to really truly show me what it was, what peace all means. It's working to reconcile relationships. And yeah, my friend Wayne just showed it to me, revealed it to me. Doesn't mean we see things eye to eye, or even but there's a relationship, and that matters so much more than just our disagreements. And so, yeah, he just revealed it to me, what peace all entails. Because in Jeremiah 27, it says, "And work for the peace and prosperity of the city where I sent you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it. Its welfare will determine your welfare." Even to the place that's oppressed you and hurt you, Jesus is saying, no, your peace transcends this. It moves into that place, because when you're working to bless and help the place you're in flourish, it'll be better for you. So intricately woven into this peace that Jesus is all about is a cultural and situational awareness. It's aware of our surroundings. It's aware of places where flourishing isn't happening and working so that it does, or that it can become, planting seeds so that it will. And this will mean issues of social justice. This will mean issues of racial equality. This will mean situations of economic flourishing and peace. And the church should be leading this because we've experienced it. And it's a deep foundation of peace that Jesus wants to bring. People made right with God, reconciling, healing relationships with each other, to witness and be a part of the flourishing of Morden, of Canada, the flourishing of all creation. And it's this all-encompassing peace that Jesus has come to bring. And like Jerusalem, we have peace living with us. And yet, I think oftentimes I don't feel it. And I just realize that so often I'm looking to the wrong things to fulfill that. So 2 questions kind of as we close this morning is, do our hearts break for the things that break Jesus' heart? And do we share in the same deep care for the world that Jesus has? Because it's something that, is about a flourishing. It isn't just, okay, we can see eye to eye, we're good there. It's actually blessing and working towards that the person I disagree with, that his life is better. It's making sure that we're all working towards that. And that often means putting what I want on the back burner and working towards making someone else's life better. And this is all, Jesus just cares so much about this. And as we'll continue to see, Jesus' desire wasn't, he didn't want to go to the cross, but he was willing to do what it took for us, for right relationship. And so as we are going to see in the next month and a half throughout this series, is Jesus' peacemaking mission of relationship, of systems, of structures, the way he relates to government, to all these different areas that we find ourselves in, our circles of influence. Jesus has something to say about how we work for peace in those situations and settings. So excited to learn and grow together. Why don't we stand for closing prayer? Jesus, thank you so much for each one here, Lord, and for their circle of influence and what you've called them to. Lord, and I pray too that, even in this moment, this morning, that they'll have sensed just a deeper understanding of the peace that we have accessible and available to us through you. Jesus, would you help us grow in this understanding of peace and shalom so that not only our lives flourish, but the lives of the people around us flourish, that Morden becomes a place of flourishing. That at his church, your church, Lord, that we would work to make our homes, our families, our businesses places of peace where people find rest, reconciliation, all the wide range of things that entail shalom. And Jesus, thank you so much for each one here and for their love for you and their desire to grow and learn. Just thank you so much for community and for church that we can stand alongside, support, and encourage each other. Lord, I thank you for your Holy Spirit that walks with us all the time to enable us and empower us to live out these big, massive calling that you have for us. It's just really mind-blowing to think that, you have this for us. So, Lord, would you go with us this week? Would you bless us? Bless the people that we come in contact with, that we truly seek to make our lives and the lives of the people we interact with this week better. Thank you so much for this life to the full, this flourishing that you promise us when we anchor our lives in you, and we want that. And so, Lord, would you teach us, mold us, empower us, and give us peace. Amen. Blessings on you all this week. Thank you.